When it comes to streaming and the business behind it, you're supposed to believe, according to the official media narrative, that Netflix is in the lead and that Disney Plus is right behind the House of Mouse, almost at the cusp of taking over. And yet, what if we told you it's completely wrong? In fact, there is a different leader entirely who's taking over streaming. Folks, we're here to tell you, sit tight. We'll explain what's really going on and why the mainstream dinosaur media doesn't want you to know the real king of streaming. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Pro Channel. We, as ever, endeavor to explain entertainment because it keeps you ahead of the culture curve. We believe that entertainment really does matter, that it is a forebearer of culture, that it tells us where our society is going. And in fact, we believe that if you look back over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years and audience preferences, then the reality of the political landscape we see today is no surprise. That's why we try each and every day to bring you new content that shows you where our world is going based on what we're enjoying. And today, well, folks, it's much of the same because it turns out the legacy dinosaur media doesn't want to tell you who is leading in streaming, and dramatically so. It is the big arms race for who will win in entertainment. And one company, one platform is winning bigly. We'll tell you who it is, what they're doing, what the numbers are, and we'll show you how far Disney is behind. Disney Plus is secretly being dominated by YouTube. And this was brought to my attention by Jonas J. Campbell. Don't know who that guy is. Investigative reporter, I believe so. Eric Hayden is the author of this article that we need to read. It's from the Hollywood Reporter. It says Disney and YouTube in close race for overall TV viewing crown. But that might not be true. Bob Iger's empire kept the Google-owned platform at bay in Nielsen's monthly media distributor rankings for December. Let us also say that you couldn't get a better month for Disney to win because college football playoffs, you have bowl games, you have almost every sport. I mean, you don't have the Major League Baseball going, but you've got about just every sport going to help ESPN. So if they were going to beat YouTube, that was the month to do it. They barely did. It says, as last year wound down the Disney TV empire, counting broadcasters like ABC, streaming platforms, Disney Plus, and Hulu, along with cable channels like FX, that's like everything they got, managed to stave off just YouTube in the race for viewing market share in the attention economy. I like that. I might use that from now on. Attention economy. Okay, cool. Good job, legacy media. You got one. Disney's brands saw about 11.2% of overall TV viewing in the United States, just ahead of YouTube's 11.1% share per Nielsen's media distributor gauge for December. Having the most viewed TV series of 2024, Bluey, which tallied 55.62 billion minutes watched last year, certainly helped. In other words, Bluey lifted them up. YouTube, meanwhile, appears to be reaping the benefits of orienting its app as a viewing destination on TV sets instead of just as a second screen for videos. The Google-owned platform claimed 11.1% of TV use in Nielsen's tracking frame, which runs from November 25th through December 29th. Again, the best possible frame for Disney to get a win. Now, if we go to that distributor gauge, first of all, let's take a look at the platforms themselves. And if we go to the platforms themselves, you'll see that YouTube is just absolutely blowing away everybody. YouTube at 11.1% of streaming, Disney Plus at 2.1%. So when we're talking about the distributor gauge, just know that the only way Disney is beating them with that 11.2% is because everything Disney is getting counted, including when Disney makes something that gets played on YouTube. Disney gets to count that. So when we actually look at app versus app, YouTube's blowing them away. The other thing to say, and Jonas, this is what you brought to my attention, so I'm going to toss it to you to comment on it. When we get to the distributor gauge, we are only measuring, and by the way, here's the gauge. We're only measuring TVs. One would assume, and I think rightfully so, that if we go to phones, if we go to computers, YouTube is likely dominating in that area, in that sphere, on those platforms. So Disney is barely winning in a very specific way on one particular platform, that is TVs. And in every other way, YouTube has conquered them. And Netflix, I would say, is far ahead of Disney as well. But YouTube, the new media, and perhaps in the future we'll start measuring X as well. The new media is dominating Disney. Jonas, what do you think about it?
Right. So these are the data considerations that we're making when we look at this. First of all, YouTube, we generally think of that as a desktop and mobile platform here. So this is supposed to be, and this is clarified by Nielsen to say that this is TV sets viewing YouTube. So not YouTube TV, which YouTube TV is often on television sets, but this is actual YouTube use on televisions is currently 0.1% behind Walt Disney's entire portfolio. This is all the Fox channels, all the ESPN channels, things like that. The other question is Disney Plus and Hulu. That's an automatic opt-in to Nielsen tracking. We're not sure if those same rules are being applied to Disney on this, on Disney Plus, whether or not because that Nielsen tracking is also for devices like a tablet or a phone or for browsers here. So I'm not sure if it's an apples to apples comparison here. So this is anecdotal to say this, but most people are like, oh yeah, I do also watch YouTube on my television. Most people, I think, there's a lot of YouTube viewing that happens while people at work should be working, but have this thing on in the background. I'm thinking there's a lot of considerations here that could grow that YouTube number exponentially if it were actually full YouTube in the United States, North America, I should say, and perhaps that Disney number would go down even farther if they were clarifying whether or not it's also including phones. So I think this is even worse for Disney than than is being stated by Nielsen here.
So when we look and we see that Disney Plus is 0.1% above Roku, like Disney Plus is in the Dow 30. Roku is not. And it would be laughable to think that Roku would be in the Dow 30. So this is what I'm talking about when I say they're trying to hide the lead. YouTube is dominating them. The only way that they can say that they're in the lead is in a subset of a subset. And I think they're going to get upset as people begin to discover how bad the ratings are on Disney Plus. Vash, are we watching perhaps again in 2025? Could we see Tubi and Roku overtake Disney Plus?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely can. And Roku and Tubi's, at least Tubi's model for capturing the audience is so much more profitable because they spend almost nothing on content. They don't have a tier in which people can opt in without ads. It's completely generating revenue by advertisers, which, Disney Plus is quickly attempting to shift over, but obviously they're having problems. I think it was just revealed actually by mistake by Bob Iger at a recent earnings call, suggesting that only 30% were actually on the ad tier of Disney Plus. So they could absolutely overtake Disney Plus because, frankly, the quality in content is just not there. There's not really a lot of content on there compelling people to pick up the service and to watch while they're there. And that's going to be a big problem here as Disney attempts to shift into the advertising game because they really need compelling content. It's not just about subscribers paying a monthly service fee, but it's also about, getting eyeballs to some of its content. We were just going over last night, Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, how poor that show is quality-wise, and yet that's one of their big releases for this year. We went over early in the show talking about how all the content expected to come out in 2025 and how 2 shows out of the 10 that were brought up are at all compelling, that being Daredevil and Andor. And again, Andor didn't set the world on fire when it was originally released back during its first inaugural season. So they have some big problems right now in order to attain more market share. And again, the whole company, they risked it all on this streaming venture, $100 billion plus on this, and this is what they had to show for it. It's sad.
So, Mark, you talked about in some of your polling that Disney had lost moderate and conservative families, and they were not coming back. one of the things that I believe completely derailed their streaming, which, that's $100 billion investment. And it essentially, it's the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to where they're going to be in the digital space for the next
Correct.
10 to 20 years. So, Mark, one of the reasons I think this jettisoned them so hard in the market is because their success was highly tied to whether or not families were willing to put their kids in front of the TV as sort of a quasi babysitting service while they cook dinner or whatever. And Disney threw that away. And the damage by parents saying, we really can't play Disney Plus without being there. Like, we can't trust them. That damage is immense. It's just, it's huge. So Mark, based on what you've been seeing with polling, is it reversible? And if it is reversible, how long would it take if Disney did a concerted effort to heal those wounds that they've formed with conservatives and moderates? How long would it take to bring back that audience?
So here's the problem. We take the number of 49% favorability for Disney and look at it as a binary, but it's really not. There was like 20 couple that were strongly favorable. There's only like 25, 30 that was very unfavorable. So it wasn't this night and day binary thing. I think another poll we asked that might explain this concept a little better is we asked after the Dylan Mulvaney thing with Bud Light, would you buy more or less Bud Light? It was about 40% who said less and 20% actually said more. And then a lot of people just didn't care. So part of the problem here is you use the word attention economy. I think that's great. There is an entirely new paradigm in media playing out, and we're in the middle of a land grab. And what's happening is Disney now has to compete in a way that they didn't have to before, and they lost their competitive advantage. Their competitive advantage was this share of attention that everybody had. And like you talk about Daredevil, I'm actually stoked for it. I think it might be great, but here's the problem. The last time Daredevil came out was 2015, 10 years ago on Netflix. And back then it was new and it was different. And it gave people a pretty compelling reason to go get a Netflix account. Like it's been 10 years, right? People have seen a lot of that. And there are probably a lot of people who are like, I don't know if I'm going to invest my time or money into Disney because they've screwed up so many other things. And then I think the other thing is that just in the last 10 years, think about how many Zoomers have entered the core demo that weren't there before. And those people are weird. Like they're into very different things. And so I don't think that, like we talk about, can Disney come back? Like, can they recapture something? The world changed. And what they should be asking themselves is, what is the new thing that we can capture that we have a competitive advantage for? And I don't know what the answer to that is. It's probably Fortnite stuff.
Well, one of the interesting things about this whole paradigm shift, Ron, is that the Disney mindset of the 2000s, like from 2000 to let's say 2012, if that was the Disney of today, I think they'd be blowing away the competition. I think they would be poised to own the streaming era. But instead, this ideology has not only captured the corporation, but it's destroyed their efforts to dominate. Like they're being pushed out in a way that we have not seen Disney pushed out. They're in a cavernous situation here where you think of Disney and you think, oh well, they're the leader in theme parks, they're the leader in cruise ships, they're the leader in box office, and it's like, well, streaming is the whole deal, and they're not the leader anywhere close to it, even if the media is trying to cover for them.
There's an old saying that says, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," right? And we know that everybody knows that saying. Bob Iger didn't come from Walt Disney. That's one of the biggest issues. He came from television, and I think that his big mistake, it's going to be looked back on as perhaps a straw that broke the camel's back, or however they're going to look on it. Huge mistake in putting so many eggs in the streaming basket, because he was looking at Netflix going, this is where the future of entertainment is, so I'm going to put all my eggs in that basket. In so doing, neglected the bread and butter for the Walt Disney Company right now, which is the parks and the experiences I understand the cruise industry is still doing fairly well, but when you have a company like Comcast, Universal come along and say, we have an opportunity here in Orlando to take away a vast market share from the Walt Disney Company at the same time. And you kind of look at now remember, this company was in a bidding war with Disney to buy Fox, right? And so they drove up the price, killed Disney, making Disney having to buy it for $70 billion, and then slipped underneath the radar and built Epic Universe right underneath Bob Iger's nose. And I think it was a genius move on Comcast's part. It seems like I'm an outsider to all this business stuff, but from an outsider's perspective, it absolutely seems like Comcast knew exactly what they were doing when Bob Iger was clueless. It's like a magician's trick. Look that way, and I've got the thing going on over here, and that's what Comcast did. And I think they're pulling it off successfully, and we're going to see just how successful that is in the next coming set of years.
Given that Disney paid essentially for Epic Universe to be built with Hulu money, I think they should have a sign out in front of Epic Universe that says "Brought to you by Hulu."
That's great. That's great stuff.
Vash, button up this conversation for us. What's your thought on it?
I think betting on streaming wasn't the worst idea in the world. However, think about what happened right after that Fox purchase was actually made, and right when Disney Plus was actually getting up and getting going. Disney Plus. So the deal closes, ink is dried on the Fox deal. In late 2019, Disney Plus launches in November of 2019, and then Bob Iger's out, and then obviously we have the pandemic and everything related to that. So that's the issue, is that there could have been a way that all that stuff was handled correctly. Unfortunately, Bob Iger wasn't interested in that, and in his wake left a Disney Plus product that has been poorly mismanaged. Like you said, Ron, has taken away from the parks. Go ahead, Jonas.
So I'll do the Lou Wasserman, the LW Ghost line here. It's actually worse. In this case, it's not just that they bet on streaming. It is that they took out an IOU and then went all in with those funds on streaming. They leveraged the parks. They leveraged everything else that actually makes the money into this venture because they just thought, we will show up and we will be the Netflix, when they would have made more money by licensing that content to Netflix, or, as was once on the table, they could have bought Netflix. Of course, then Netflix would probably only be worth about $50 billion at this point instead of $400 to $600 billion.
There you go. All right, folks, the truth is Disney is not winning in the streaming wars. It's YouTube, then it's Netflix, then it's Amazon. Disney distantly behind, and the mainstream legacy dinosaur media will have to admit it in time to save their credibility. Put this baby to bed. This video is over. Turn off the lights, but not quite yet, folks, because we do ask one final thing before we say goodbye, and that is, would you consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it and stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment down below. Also greatly appreciated, anytime you would like to share this out on your favorite social media platforms, well, we would love that. And we'd also love to hear your thoughts. Folks, drop a comment down below and use that beautiful mind of yours. If you would not mind, we'd love to know what you're thinking. Also, if you would like to become a member of the channel, it's as simple as clicking the join button. It is the price of a soda per month, and you'll gain access to all kinds of new, cool, exclusive information. Folks, until the next time we have the honor of spending time with you, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun. Jump into the water!
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. Arizona. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.